Okay, so we are recording. So this presentation is pretty much about your My AmeriCorps Education Award. We're going to get into, the amount, what the Education Award entails, and how best to utilize your AmeriCorps Education Award. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute or put it in the chat, and I'll try to answer those questions as best as I can. Okay. So the Siegel AmeriCorps Education Award, that is like the formal name of it. It's also called the AmeriCorps Education Award or the Ed Award. You might hear that interchangeably. It's awarded post-service to AmeriCorps and VISTA alums who successfully complete their term of service. And the amount is tied to the Pell Grant, which is that federal grant that students can be eligible for and receive in order to attend college. It is considered a voucher. You don't receive it as cash monies. It's, put in, a government trust under your name. And it's good for 7 years after it's issued. So if you're not going to use it immediately, you want to make sure that you have a plan within the next 7 years to use your Ed Award. Okay, so for the Summer Associate full award amount, it's $1,459.29. In all AmeriCorps VISTA summer associates who serve the full 10 weeks of their service term will receive this full amount. Okay, so maybe wondering, okay, I'm going to get this amount of money. How do I use it? So it can be used for current cost of attendance at qualifying institutions. And the thing that qualifies an institution to use your Ed Award is it needs to be a Title V institution. If you are confused by that and you're like, hey, I want to use it at this school, the best thing you can do is to call the financial aid department and ask them, are you a Title V school? Or Title IV? Do you accept this funding? If the answer is yes, then you can use your AmeriCorps Education Award there. You can also use it to pay back qualifying student loans. So the best example that I can give for this is that these are loans that are subsidized. Usually subsidized loans are loans that come from the Department of Education. It can also be used for international study, continuing education courses, or non-credit courses. So if you want to get a certificate or something like that, or not a full degree, you can still use your Ed Award for those types of courses. The international study, again, has to be tied to a Title IV school. So you want to make sure that they accept that funding if you're looking to use your Ed Award for like study abroad. Okay. So getting into Ed Award matching, I'm mainly going to focus on the Ed Award matching options that are here in the state of Montana. Back in 2016, affiliate campuses that are a part of the Montana Campus Compact Network, you may remember during orientation, we gave you an overview of what Campus Compact was, and we are, a network of campuses across the state. So these schools here that are on the right side of the screen, these are the schools in Montana that are part of our affiliation. There may be more, there may be less. It changes from year to year. But if you are planning to attend any of the schools that are a part of Montana Campus Compact, they do have some form of Ed Award matching that you can apply for and possibly utilize. There are some stipulations. It depends on the college, but this slide is just meant to show you that you can maximize your education award if you're attending a school in Montana. And the matching just means, okay, you have that approximately $1,400 that you can put towards tuition. If you, they want to honor that you served in AmeriCorps, you can say, hey, I'm looking to utilize my education award here. Do you allow matching? How do I apply? Some schools will match dollar per dollar. Other schools will match just a certain percentage. Some notes about matching. Campus matches are for current cost of attendance, not paying back student loans. And each campus has a different capacity for offering those matches. They have different deadlines and a process for applying. Some are much more limited than others, so you want to keep that in mind. One tip that I can give you is if you're looking to utilize the match at a campus institution or at a campus compact institution, you want to start asking them about that as soon as possible. Members need to meet with campus financial aid to initiate the match. You don't necessarily have to be there in person, but it's good to let financial aid know that you're going to utilize your education award and you're interested in the match. A lot of the time, the financial aid office is the best people to contact about your ed award. We have it underlined here that this match will not happen automatically. These schools don't know that you served in AmeriCorps, so it's good to be talking to them about it. If you run into any sort of difficulties, please let our office know, and we have contacts at financial aid offices across the state, and we can help advocate for you. So you may be thinking, okay, I'm not really planning to go to school here in Montana. Can I get a match at a different institution? Yes, absolutely. AmeriCorps has a really great directory of the, what do they call it? Like schools of national service. And so if you Google that or follow this URL that we have listed on here, you can find schools that have matching opportunities. And I think it's listed in alphabetical order, I want to say. So you can go through the entire list and look for the university that you're planning to attend and see if they offer matching. If the college or the university you're interested in attending is not on the list, you should negotiate. Let the department you're going to or the admission office know that you're an AmeriCorps VISTA alum and would like for them to match your ed award. We've seen alums be able to leverage a match, which is essentially just a tuition waiver that they can apply to your account. And some strategies that we have found useful if the school doesn't accept or doesn't offer a match is, familiarize yourself with another similar institution's match and let them know what the competition does and say that's what you would like them to do. Their goal is to keep you at their institution. And so you want to help kind of leverage that. Use terms like tuition waiver, discount, or scholarships. This is language that financial aid offices are familiar with, so it's good to use that to kind of clarify the concept of what the match would be. Okay, I feel like I'm just cruising along. Does anyone have any questions? No? Okay. So there are some limitations for, the Ed Award. Again, it's available for 7 calendar years from the last day of service. So you want to make sure that you're planning, accordingly. This is not exactly a limitation, but it kind of is, but your education award is transferable if you're 55 years or older before your service started. We do have some folks that, were older in this cohort. I don't think any of them are here, but it is, a good perk, but a bit of a limitation, if you're younger than 55. There is a lifetime limit of 2 full-time education awards. If you are interested in serving again, say next summer, you're like, oh, this was a great experience. I'd like to get some more money for college. I want to do it again. Your education award for your summer associate term does not equal 1 full Ed award. It's if you are serving for a full 365 days and you got the maximum education award amount, that's when you would hit that lifetime of 2 full education awards if you did 2 full years. So ultimately you could do multiple summer associate terms if you're interested in doing that and just keep gaining Ed awards. The biggest limitation is that it is considered taxable income. So this is going to affect your, annual income and your taxes, depending on how you utilize your education award. So remember, this is considered taxable income. You do need to claim it on your taxes when you go to file your taxes in, starting in like February through April of next year. And I'll get into it in another slide, but the considered taxable income, it is considered taxable income the year you use it, not the year you receive your ed award. Does that make sense? Okay. Looks like we have a chat. Robert asks, do we get a W-2 form or something for our ed award to file for taxes? Robert, you will get a form, but it's not a W-2. I forget what it's called. I think it's a 1099, and I'll get into that in a couple slides. So again, what can you use your education award for? Just as a reminder, you can use it for federal student loans. Some of those loans that we've, heard of alums using is paying back Stafford loans, Perkins loans, WMD Ford federal loans, and more. So if you received loans from, an entity associated with the Department of Education, you get a big checkbox like, yep, that sounds great. Private student loans, unfortunately, you cannot pay back a private student loan or a Parent Plus loans. There are some exceptions for private student loans, but you really have to talk to your loan provider if you're looking to pay back student loans. Parent Plus, that's just a hard black and white no, because unfortunately the loan is not just under your name, it's under your parents' name. And so because your parents accepted some responsibility of paying back that loan, AmeriCorps will not honor a Parent Plus loan. Educational expenses that you can use your education award for is for credit classes at a university or non-credit classes at a university or a community college. That's where that certificate comes into play. You don't have to be seeking a degree. Sailing classes in Mexico, yes, but only if they accept Title IV funds. It has to be associated with an institution that accepts Title IV funds. You can use your education award for GRE, like prep courses offered by a college, not for the GRE itself, unfortunately. But if you are interested in taking the GRE, you can always apply for a test fee waiver. That is something that AmeriCorps members receive. Usually you can also get a waiver for other things, like if you're taking the LSAT or the MCAT or any of those entrance exams for graduate school, you can typically get a waiver by proving that you're an AmeriCorps member. So you can also use your education award for class supplies. They must be directly attributed to a class though. They can't really typically be for notebooks, pens and pencils, that sort of stuff, but we have seen people use their education award to purchase books or a laptop or any sort of lab equipment that they may need for a class. And again, all of these are acceptable educational expenses if they are through a Title IV institution. That is the biggest caveat there. You have to confirm that it is a Title IV institution. Another tip, again, talk to your financial aid office to let them know you're using an education award so they know to watch for it. Sometimes you see some turnover in financial aid departments at institutions, and they're not trained up on utilizing the AmeriCorps Education Award. So it's always best to call ahead and let them know that you're going to be using your education award. Okay, are we ready for some trivia? Okay. Can I use my ed award to purchase dinner? No. Can I use my education award to pay my private student loans? Yeah, I'm seeing Ella go like this. It's typically a no, but some is yes. How about, can I use my education award to go to cosmetology school? If it's part of a Title IV institution. Yep. So Helena College, they have a cosmetology school, and because Helena College accepts Title IV, monies, yes, you could use your education award for that. Can I use my education award to travel to Europe? I'm seeing no's. Mason gave me one of these. Okay, so you can use your education award to travel to Europe if it is study abroad through a Title IV institution. Okay. Feel good about that? Makes sense? Yeah, some of these like wishy-washy ones that, you know, there's extra details that you need to be aware of. But typically, you know, it's always that Title IV institution. That's the biggest barrier to using your education award if you're using it for current cost of attendance. Okay, so you may be thinking, okay, I'm gonna get this education award, like how do I actually use it? I don't want it to just sit in this government trust, you know, for years and me not understand how to utilize it. So you will want to log into your My AmeriCorps portal, which is, you know, that account, your My AmeriCorps account that I've been referring to in emails. That's where you formally applied for service, where you did your terms and conditions, you know, where you could check your status, all that sort of stuff. So you'll log into the My AmeriCorps portal and go to the Education Award interface. When you complete your service, your portal options on the left-hand side of your screen is going to change a bit. There's usually a red box where it says like applicant home, and then there's these gray boxes under it. Those gray boxes, a new one is going to appear and it's going to say My Education Award or Your Education Award or something about Education Award. So that's where you'll be able to actually use your education award. So you'll click there, then you're gonna select the college or university if you are paying for the current cost of tuition or cost of attendance. So if you want to send money to your college or university, you're going to put in the name of the college or university. If you're trying to pay back student loans, excuse me, you're going to type in the loan provider. Does that make sense? Okay. And also, if your college or university is not listed or your loan provider is not listed, there is an add vendor feature. So you'll just type in the formal name of your loan provider or your school. They might ask you for an address, so you'll want to make sure that you know the exact address. You'll then add the amount of payment you'd like to make. With your education award, you do not have to use it all at once. You can use it in increments, whatever works for you. Just know that you only have the, you know, approximately $1,400 to use. So you want to make sure that if you're using the entire amount, you put the correct entire amount. If you're using less, just put that amount of money that you want to use. Confirm that you've selected the correct amount and recipient, and then finalize. There'll be a submit button. You'll just hit submit and then it'll say, okay, this is a confirmation that you're using your education award. Confirm payment has arrived with the financial aid folks or loan holder whom you're sending the payment to. I'll share some firsthand experience. I did 2 terms of service. I ended up with, I think, a little over $11,000 in education award, and I wanted to send it to my loan provider. I asked them to put it towards certain loans because I had 8 loans. And then they just applied it really, you know, wacky like and didn't really make any sense and didn't follow my instructions. So it was a benefit that I, you know, called, talked to someone, and they were able to reallocate those payments to the correct loans. So you want to make sure that you are following up, because, you know, AmeriCorps service is unique and not everyone knows about it. You know, you do have to kind of follow up, advocate for yourself, make sure that they're doing the correct thing that you want them to do. Okay, so this is what it'll look like. Do you all recall seeing this red box and then these gray boxes beneath it? So this is a screenshot from your My AmeriCorps. So this will pop up, My Education Award. You'll select Create Education Award Payment Request. So it'll say, okay, this is when your service dates were, this is the amount you have, payment or the amount that you want to use. It looked like this person was using like $322 maybe. Payment type, there'll be a drop down bar. and then the amount authorized, or maybe this is the amount they had, excuse me. Payment type, I can't remember what this is going to be, but it might ask you, it might be a drop-down menu of like loan repayment or current cost of attendance. You'll authorize an amount. You'll want to make sure that if you are doing cents, you put in, the decimal point and the cents, and then you'll search for your institution. The institution is either going to be the college or university you're attending or the loan provider. The institution, it just means both. So you'll want to search for them, whether it's the loan provider or the school. Then you're going to certify and submit. It's really that simple. Once you do that, there is going to be a box that shows you like how much you used, what the date is, and who they sent it to. So there is kind of like a receipt there for you. Although it doesn't look like a formal invoice, it's just going to show, okay, this is when you utilized it. One thing I wanted to let y'all know is that payments cannot be automated. So if you're looking to pay back a student loan and you're like, I know I have to pay this much money every month, it's not automated. You'd have to go in there every month before the due date and request the transfer, and then it's not even guaranteed that they're going to get it before your due date. So my recommendation is that you do not use your education award to pay back monthly payments. Okay, makes sense? Okay. Okay, so a note about tuition payments. I assumed that they sent it all in one payment, but it actually turns out we kind of heard from someone using their Ed Award that funds are dispersed to schools in 2 payments. So one at the start of the semester and one at approximately midterm. So you'll want to make sure that your financial aid department knows of this, because sometimes the financial aid department doesn't know this, and they can get confused or think that you are in default on your account. So you want to let them know, okay, you're going to get 2 payments if you're paying cost of tuition or cost of attendance. And again, I'm pretty much just going to scream this from the rooftop this entire session, is be in contact often to make sure the process is going smoothly for you. It's good for you to always check in, make sure things are going okay, because you don't want fees on your account. You want to make sure that you're in good standing and that everything is going smoothly. Okay, so you may be thinking, what about taxes? Because it is taxable income. As I said earlier, the education award is taxable in the year it's used. It's not taxed in the year you received it. So the taxes are not withheld by the National Service Trust, so they're not withheld by AmeriCorps. You have to predict what the tax implications will be on the year you use it and plan accordingly. You'll receive a form 1099 miscellaneous is what it means. It's miscellaneous income from the National Service Trust for any tax year that you use a portion of your education award over $600. If you use less than $600, you have to seek this form. Oh, excuse me. There we go. You have to seek out the 1099 miscellaneous yourself. And usually your My AmeriCorps account is going to have that tax form for you. But if you use more than $600, they're going to send it to you. Does that make sense? So you want to make sure that you remember that. If you ask me why they do that, I really don't know. It just seems to be, a rule that they have. Okay, so that's a lot to think about. How you doing? Any questions there? Feeling all right? Okay. Does anyone know where this is? Robin's mouthing it because they know. Any other guesses? Robin, where is this?
This is Makoshika State Park.
It's technically the Badlands, which I've heard are different than the desert, but it's in eastern Montana if you were driving over to the Dakotas. Okay, cruising along. So tax strategies. I left this in here because typically I give this presentation to like my full year-long members, but I think it could be useful information. thinking about, okay, I have this education award. I know I'm going to have to pay taxes on it. It's taxable income. How could that affect, my tax return, the amount of money I have to pay in taxes? So there's some strategies that we have, either experienced ourselves or have heard from our alums that work. And so, excuse me. I don't think this really applies to any of us over the last few years because interest accrual, was paused during the last, I think 2.5 years or however long it's been. But AmeriCorps will, excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself. The interest you pay on student loans is often tax deductible. So you want to make sure that when you're filling out your taxes, if you've paid any interest recently, it is tax deductible. And there's a line in taxes where you can say, okay, I paid this much interest on my student loans, and they'll deduct it as a credit. And did you know that you can get a tax credit when going to school? So you want to make sure that if you are attending, a university or a college, the year that you're using your education award, you can get a tax deduction or a tax credit for saying that you're, letting them know you're a student. You can learn more by searching for deducting student loan interest and education tax credits. We just like to let people know this. It really doesn't affect your education award much, but it is just good to know this so you can get some deductions on your taxes. And again, or as a note, to receive your deductions or credits, you need to use a tax form 1040. The 1040 form is not something you necessarily submit to the IRS, but it is a guiding form that helps you figure out your tax implications. So if you're concerned about paying taxes on your education award, you can choose to use it over multiple years. So for example, use half of your education award in 1 year and the other half in the next year. You want to make sure that, since it is taxable income, it's not going to bump you into the next tax bracket. So you don't have to pay more taxes on your education award. Okay, taxes continued. If you want to learn about the implications of using the Ed Award, consult a tax table or download a 1040 form to estimate your liability. You can also contact an accountant or other resources before using your Ed Award. This is a really big recommendation of ours is, know what the implications are before you utilize your education award. And again, common practice to maximize the tax burden seems to be spreading payments across multiple years. These amounts don't really apply to you, but I typically put it in there for full-time members. So using like $2,000 in 2021, another $2,000 in 2022, and so on and so forth. So you're not using it all at once. You're not bumping yourself up into another tax bracket. Okay. So tax liability, that burden of taxes is dependent on a few things. So it's dependent on your annual income during the year of the use of your education award. It's also dependent on the education award amount used. Again, there's that, are you going to use the full amount? Are you going to use a lower amount year over year? And then, so these are things that, kind of add to your taxable income. That's why there's pluses next to it. And then there's a minus next to number 3, because you can, you're eligible for personal tax credits or deductions. And so tax credits are influenced by a few things. So you may be thinking, okay, why does it matter if I'm single or I'm married? If you're single, you're in a different kind of tax category. You're the head of the household. It's just your money that you're claiming. If you're married and you're filing jointly, that can affect your tax deductions as well. Do you have exemptions? Like, are you in school? Do you have veteran status? There's a few other exemptions. I can't really think about them right now because I don't own a home and that sort of thing, but I think there are some other exemptions, like if you bought a home that year, if you bought farming equipment, that sort of stuff, that affects your taxes. So you want to look into what sort of tax credits and deductions. And so all of this, so these 2 pluses and this minus, they equal your taxable income. And then that income is taxed at 2 tax rates. One is the federal tax rate and the other one is the state tax rate. Okay, makes sense? Sound good? Okay. So these are a couple scenarios that I'm going to show you on the next 2 slides. So this scenario number 1 is if you used your education award right after you completed service compared to like down the road after you complete service. So you're going to take into account these 3 factors. What's your annual income during the year of use? So say in 2022, you made $10,000. You then use, these are 2 options. You use just $500 of your education award compared to $5,850 of your education award. Then you get personal credits and deductions. $8,000 is the standard deduction that like everyone gets across the country, I believe. And so that's why it's at $8,000. So then this really affects, the education award use actually does greatly affect the taxable income. So for this one, and they're both taxed at the federal rate of 10%, which I believe is in 2016 was the lowest tax bracket tax rate. So your taxable income would be $2,500 if you used less of your education award versus $7,815 if you used more of your education award. There's a lot of other things that goes into this, but this is just the most simple way that we can put this scenario, because you're going to have different circumstances than your fellow AmeriCorps summer associate. Okay, so then if you think of another scenario and you're like, okay, I'm going to use it 5 years down the road. You're out of AmeriCorps service, you may be out of college, you're making more of a living wage at $40,000 per year. If you use your education award of the $5,815 and you took the personal credit deductions of $8,000, that standard deduction, your taxable income is $37,815. And you can see that the federal tax rate is higher because we have tiered tax brackets. And so because you're at a higher taxable income, your tax rate is going to be higher. Does that make sense? So I can talk about my personal experience. I used my 2 education awards like immediately right after getting out of AmeriCorps service, because I knew I was going into another job where I was going to make more money. And so I didn't want my education award, which was about $11,500, I believe. I knew that would push me up into another tax bracket. And once I, used it, let me see. If I used it immediately after service, my taxable income was going to be lower because I was making a lot less money during that year that I used it compared to my jobs after AmeriCorps service. I was making more money. So if I applied the $11,000 a year later, it would bump me up to the next tax bracket and I would have to pay more money in taxes. Sound good? I'm seeing some nodding, like that makes sense. Okay, great. Okay. So those are just 2 scenarios to think about using your education award. Again, everyone's circumstances are different, so you want to take into account what your personal circumstances are. If you want to explore further how your education award or anything going on in your life, your income, that sort of stuff, your deductions, you can download the F1040. It's a PDF from the IRS. When you download that form, it's not really a form that you're going to submit to the IRS. It's more of something to use to, estimate your liability of taxes. There's going to be a lot of lines that say talking about deductions and what your, income is, how much you paid to go to school, any other exemptions that you have. So this form could help you and be kind of like a guiding point to figure out your tax burden. Okay, So this says VISTA only because typically every March I give this presentation, or someone from our office gives this presentation to like a lot of other AmeriCorps members that aren't just VISTA. But VISTA members, some of you may have seen, you could have opted into the education award of the $1,400, or there was an end of service cash stipend, which was, I think, below like $400. Does anyone remember getting to choose between those two things? Okay, so when I say stipend, that's what I'm referring to, is that, like, I don't know how much it was, but I know it's less than $400. So you could have chosen to receive a post-service cash stipend in place of the education award. If that's the case, a lot of this education award stuff does not apply to you. But if you chose the stipend, you could be eligible for up to 15% cancellation on certain types of loans. We don't really have anything to do with that, but what I did want to let you know is that if you contact the U.S. Department of Education's Federal Student Aid Information Center, that's a very long title, for a list of student loans eligible for this type of cancellation. So there is an option for the folks that took the cash stipend. Okay, so if you did choose the education award, you're not eligible for this cancellation. It just has, it's one or the other. You got the ed award to pay back your student loans, or you got the stipend. Okay. I'm almost towards the end. So if you have any questions, feel free to fire them out in the chat or unmute yourself. So some good resources. MyAmeriCorps.gov, which is kind of the catch-all website for AmeriCorps, has some really good information. You can type in just literally AmeriCorps.gov space AmeriCorps Education Award information, and it'll get you there. Or you could follow this URL. VISTA Campus has good information. You should all have a VISTA Campus account. If you do not, feel free to make one. They have some really good information on there about, like, life after VISTA. You can also find a list of foreign institutions that accept Title IV funding at studentaid.gov. If you're interested in doing studying abroad, or if you are like, hey, I'm actually going to be traveling and would like to take some classes, I'm going to spend some time overseas, that sort of stuff, you can find what participating schools will take the education award. And again, I can send out these slides and this information to folks, and I am recording this, so you can always rewatch it and find this information. Okay, so you may be thinking, okay, I haven't got my ed award, so what happens if I have questions? Again, AmeriCorps.gov has some excellent FAQs, tools, and resources about the education award. If you're like, okay, I still haven't found the answer to my question, there is the National Service Trust Hotline. This is the same thing. Like, if you call me up and I don't know the answer, I'm going to say, hey, it might be best for you to call the AmeriCorps hotline. It's the same number. It's this 1-800 number. Once you call, it will be like kind of like a automated thing with like a phone tree, but you will eventually get to a real person. So just know that there are people there to help you. It just takes a moment for you to get through like the operating phone tree. And if you're like, okay, I don't want to sit on the phone and talk to someone, I'll just submit a question. There is the National Service Hotline's Ask a Question page. And so you're pretty much just emailing a rep there that can answer your questions. Okay, that's pretty much all I have for the education award. Are there any questions that popped up for anyone here? Yeah, Cody.
So August 14th being the date that is our end of service, will it be available immediately on August 14th?
I have not really been able to get a direct answer from that. I know that it is going to be available to you on August 15th. So it could be the 14th, it could be the 15th, but I know definitively it will be available to you the day after you end service. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to exit out of here and stop well, maybe I won't stop recording just for the folks that aren't here. The only other things that I wanted to cover with you all was a reminder that August 10th is quickly approaching. It's going to be the end of this week. Is it the end of this week? Nope. So August 10th or 11th, I'm cool with a little bit of flexibility. This is the program calendar that I sent all of you when you first started service. And so we're here today at August 7th. August 10th, a monthly report and your August timesheets are due. So again, that's going to be that monthly report link that is sent to you. If you don't get a link before the 10th, you can reuse the link that has been sent to you for the last 2 reports. It's a live link. You can submit another report. It's not a new link every time. And so you can upload your August timesheet. You may be thinking, okay, if it's due on the 10th, but I don't end service until August 14th, you know, try to project what your last 2 days are going to be. If you can't do that and you're like, I'm not going to meet the deadline, you need to let me know and submit it by August 14th or your last day of service. So there are some outliers for folks here in this webinar, and you started a little bit later. August 14th is the last day of service for pretty much everyone except just a couple outliers. Those outliers should know when their end of service is if it's not the 14th. I also realized today that I have not sent out the template for the service impact report. So I'm going to back up that deadline a bit into the 14th. The service impact report is a very simple narrative that I'm going to ask each site to fill out. So it doesn't have to be each person, but there needs to be one report submitted from each service site. I'll send that out this afternoon, and it's a template. It's going to ask you, okay, if this was your performance measures, how many people did you engage in volunteer service? How many meals did you distribute? What sort of capacity building things did you did? It's pretty much just a template to help you outline what your impact and achievements were. We're going to ask you, where did you serve? Who did you impact? Tell us a great story about service. It just needs to be a few paragraphs, anything that you want to share. So this is a way that we can then take the information of what you did this year and kind of compact it and send it up to our funders. We may also use it in infographics. If you want to include a really nice quote about your service, please feel free to add that as well. If you have a great story about how someone helped you grow like professionally or personally within this service, feel free to include that. We kind of leave it open-ended with a few guiding questions to get you through the impact report. If you could submit that to me through email, that would be great. There's not a place for you to upload it on your monthly report. I'll send out a reminder of it when I send out the template. I did have the template pulled up, but my computer needed to be restarted, so it's not there anymore. Okay, so we're at 3:46 and this goes, until 4. I'll stick around for a few more minutes if anyone has questions, but at this point, it looks like Robin mentioned something. We're still missing some July reports, so be sure to get those in too if you hadn't had a chance yet. Yep, that's true. If you have not submitted a report to show your impact for the month of July, please fill out one for the month of August and the month of July. Do not combine those 2 reports. We need them per month. Also, if you have not submitted a timesheet or activity log, those are 2 the same things. If you haven't submitted a timesheet for your August days, please feel like you got to do that immediately, because it's really important, because those are federal documentation or documents that we need to have on file to show that you did service and that you completed service. So please, please, please send in those timesheets. Also, your timesheets need to have your signature on them and your supervisor's signature on them. You cannot submit them without both of those signatures, because they will not be valid. Okay, I'm seeing some heads nodding yes. Any questions before we bop off with like 10 minutes to spare? Yeah, Ella.
I have a quick question.
Okay.
So aside from the monthly report and the service impact report, are there any other loose ends we need to tie up? I think at one point I had seen on my AmeriCorps portal that there was like an end of service survey and like a end of service form of some sort.
Yeah, so
Those
the
required, or
future
yeah.
plan. Oh, what, sorry, I didn't catch the
Sorry,
last
yeah, I was
one.
just gonna ask if those are required or if there's anything along those lines that we need to do before we finish also.
Yeah, so some of you may have received a link or a message from AmeriCorps asking you to complete an exit survey. That is completely optional. If you want to submit it, feel free to do that. If you don't, it's not a requirement. There's no way for me to know which of my members have received that exit survey. So that's why it's optional, and I'm not going to hold you to it because I don't know who's received it. The future plans form, that is something that I've heard kind of mixed messages about. If you have time to fill it out, please feel free to do that. If you don't see it, then don't worry about it. I do not think it is a requirement, but the system can be kind of glitchy at times, and it'll still pop up because sometimes the system doesn't recognize that you're just in service for 10 weeks and not a full year. Whereas for our full year members, it's absolutely a requirement that they complete the future plans form. Okay, those are good questions. Any other, Robert, do you have a question? Oh, okay, just bumping the keyboard. Okay. Okay, anything else? Cody, you kind of looked like you had a question.
Yeah, but it's kind of particular to me, so I was just gonna wait.